What's going on, guys? This is RJ from Game News USA, and today I feel like going over the top 10 boxers of all time, in my opinion, because we just witnessed the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight, and it got me to thinking, which boxers are actually the greatest of all time? Well, I believe that's very subjective, and on today's list, I want to make clear I'm not just going off of records, wins and losses, or KOs. And I'm not really breaking it down by weight class, necessarily. I'm just mostly using eye test, my knowledge of watching old fights, new fights, what I think is the most dangerous boxers, the best boxers that I've seen that I think deserve to be on this list. Yes, many of them were before my time. Trust me, I've watched the old fights, though. I've looked at it, I've studied it, and I think I've come up with a pretty good list. Of course, you all are entitled to your opinion. I think this is a very subjective list. So definitely in the comments below, let me know your favorite boxers, who you think was the best, and don't forget to like and subscribe. So without further ado, let me get some honorable mentions out of the way. You know, unfortunately, these boxers didn't make the cut, only because we have to trim it down to 10. But Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Roy Jones Jr., you know, these are all examples of guys that were really freaking good and just quite didn't make the cut to my top 10. So without further ado, let's jump right to it. Number 10 on this list is Manny Pacquiao, who had a record of 62 wins, 7 losses, 2 draws, and 39 knockouts. This guy was little, but man, oh man, did he pack a punch. And he lasted a while boxing. And I have to give him mad props for that. Number 9 on the list, Joe Frazier, with a record of 32 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, and 27 knockouts. We know he was one of the best boxers of the 70s. He had a great rivalry with another boxer that I'm going to bring up later. But Joe Frazier was really fucking good, man. Like, the record, I was surprised when I looked this up that he was in so few fights compared to some of these other guys. But he gave some of the best of all time all they could handle and more. So Joe Frazier has to be on this list. Number 8. How about somebody that's undefeated, only being 8th on this list? Rocky Marciano, 49-0 with 43 knockouts. Insane. World champion 4 years straight. Maybe I'm disrespecting him a bit by where he is on the list. Maybe he should be higher. But there's a reason why other fighters are ahead of him. And when it comes to boxing, it's not always about the record, necessarily. When it comes to this list, it's, if this guy fought the guy above him in the list, who would win? Well, that's why number 7 on my list is Marvelous Marvin Hagler, with a record of 62 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws, and 52 knockouts. You want to talk about a knockout machine. Marvelous Marvin Haggard. You do not want to take a punch from him. Number 6 on the list. We have to go in the Wayback Machine for this one. And some of you old heads are going to be really happy I bring this guy up. Because so often, when we talk about the greatest boxers of all time, people of my generation completely forget this guy. Joe Louis, with a record of 66 wins and 3 losses and 52 knockouts, was an absolute beast back in the day. Joe Louis, man, I believe if not for certain other boxers that came on the scene later on, people would be looking at him like they look at Ali. You know what I mean? Next up, number 5, the best record of any fighter on this list. Better than Marciano by 1. Floyd Mayweather, 50-0. 50-0. The best small fighter ever. The best defensive fighter ever. Only 27 knockouts. And that's part of the reason why he's not higher on this list is he does everything so well, but his punches aren't as powerful as the top 4 on this list. He's not a heavyweight like some of the others on this list going forward. But he definitely must be top 5 for that 50-0 record. And the longevity he had. And his defensive prowess. And his ability to avoid a loss in the ring, really. The sweet science of boxing. Number 4 on the list, George Foreman. 76 wins, 5 losses, 68 knockouts. Oh man, this guy, a tale of 2 careers almost here. In the 70s, he was absolutely feared. If you are going to box him, you would start pissing dribble down your leg in fear of this man. He was absolutely fucking unstoppable. And then in the 90s, he comes back as an old man and wins another world championship. And then he makes some Foreman grills that we all love. So, for that, he is number 4 on the list. Number 3, and this is actually the most fights I've ever seen for any of these great all-time boxers. I can't believe how many fights this guy was in. Sugar Ray Robinson. Most losses on here, but by far the most wins. 174 wins to 19 losses with 109 knockouts. This guy lived and breathed boxing and deserves recognition to be number 3 on this list. And that brings me to number 2. Mike Tyson. 50 wins, 7 losses, 44 knockouts, but that doesn't tell the story. Mike Tyson, late 80s, was absolutely feared. He was the baddest man on the planet. When he stepped in that ring, you knew you were completely fucked. You knew you probably weren't going to get out of the first round. You were decimated, completely destroyed. You'd be laid out by one hit instantly. This man was absolutely tough as nails. Buster Douglas did get a win on him that shocked the world. He did have an incident where he bit Holyfield's ear off. But if anything, it made him more iconic. He is the iconic boxer of this era. The last 40 years, he's been the iconic boxer of this era. Mike Tyson, number 2 on the list. But even he falls short of number 1. It is hands down in anybody's list. Number 1 is Muhammad Ali. 56 wins, 5 losses, 37 knockouts, but that don't even tell the story either. He was once Cassius Clay before he changed his name. He was able to beat the powerful Sonny Liston in a wild upset. He was champion until they tried to force him to serve in Vietnam and he refused and went to prison. When he got out, he became champion again. And he fought Joe Frazier. And he beat Joe Frazier in a trilogy. He fought George Foreman that I mentioned earlier in the Rumble in the Jungle when nobody thought he had a chance. And he knocked him out with the rope-a-dope strategy. He beat the greatest fighters of all time and became the greatest fighter of all time. And he had the gift of gab. He could talk up a fight. He had promo skills before we knew what promo skills were. This man is the greatest boxer ever, and it's the only thing that y'all could fight about 2 through 10 or 2 through 30, for all I care. But number 1, always and forever, is Muhammad Ali. Anyway, guys, that is my list. We floated like a butterfly. We stung like a bee. I hope you all enjoyed it. Peace. Have a good one.